What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 320 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay, Brainless One will be joining me shortly. We had a really good Money in the Bank show that really was effective in setting sights clearly for SummerSlam, which is now 4 weeks away. A lot of the matches are not, set in stone yet. They haven't been officially confirmed. But clearly, most of these matches are going to happen. We're going to see them soon. So, looking forward to what they do in the coming weeks. It's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. We got a couple of surprise returns. We got a heel turn that turned into a face turn. All sorts of stuff. Chris Brown, how you doing, sir?
Yeah. Hold on.
Sideways. He's backwards.
Why am I sideways?
I don't know. All right. There we go.
All right. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
What's up, Cousin Jay?
All right.
How you doing?
What do you want to get into? What are your initial thoughts? Do you want to get into Money in the Bank and all the fallout from that?
Yeah, let's get into that because honestly, that's the real big hot topic for this week.
Yeah.
And honestly, with no surprise, to me at least, because I've been saying this a lot since Triple H took over, that was the best Money in the Bank pay-per-view I've ever seen.
And beyond them really delivering in the ring, it set the stories forward.
Right.
It was like a bunch of nonsense, and they did so in I think a good and effective way.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, I see where they're going here. We had been hearing for a while that Drew McIntyre, kind of unhappy allegedly, kind of, wanting a strong return story before he decided that he was going to come back. What were your thoughts on Drew's return?
I was very happy to see him. I think they did the right thing, having him be the next guy in line to fight Gunther. He's a very viable candidate. He is a former Intercontinental Champion. I know it's probably not what he was hoping of, either being the World Champion, WWE Champion, Universal Champion, whatever of the 47 world titles they now have on the main roster.
Right.
But honestly, it's good to see him in this feud with Gunther.
The last time we saw him in the ring, he was in the ring with Gunther, and Sheamus, and Gunther put on perhaps the match of the weekend at WrestleMania. I mean, I would say it was between that and Rhea and Charlotte. So having a one-on-one match, I'm certainly not against. I like seeing dudes beat the holy hell out of each other, and that is exactly what we're going to get. Going forward, do you sit there and think to yourself, like, is Drew McIntyre going to get a couple of buddies to help out against Imperium, or do you think he's going to continue to go solo and just kind of, hey, I've got to beat this mountain on my own?
That's a very good question. As long as he doesn't have Matilda or whatever, Veronica, or his long sword, that's all I care about. If you're gonna have him bring in like two more people, I mean, who would fit in that would go with Drew McIntyre if he were to, once he gets into this feud with Gunther, because kind of like Sammy and Kevin make a lot of sense, but you've kind of already done that with Sammy and Kevin joining forces with Matt Riddle. And it's like, I get it because they're the tag team champions that they could do stuff like that. But, I mean, who else do you have out there?
Now, if you kind of switch up how they present themselves, would you see something like the Creed brothers joining forces with Drew McIntyre?
That'd be a good way to introduce the Creed brothers, considering they just had, on the 4th of July, the match with the Schism, where the loser leaves NXT. And I have so many thoughts on that, too. I want to get into that in a little bit. But I think
Sure.
that bringing in the Creed brothers that way would be a good way to bring them up. I do.
For
But
the most part, Imperium has not had like a lot of high-profile tag matches necessarily recently on the main roster. I mean, they've been the kind of the henchmen. I mean, and they do well as henchmen.
yes. But I mean, if you want them to be a little bit more viable, if you want them, because I really do think they're talented enough to be tag team champions in WWE. If you do want them to eventually make that next step where they do become tag team champions, you're going to have to do a little bit more than them just henching around.
Yeah. All right, give me 1 second, brainless one.
No, you're fine. And honestly, it was great. And it was surprising, too, because Jay had texted me during the show, and right as Gunther and Matt Riddle went off, and he was like, this has the capabilities of being the match of the night. And honestly, I was explaining how you and I were texting during the show, and you had said that Gunther and Riddle had the capabilities of being the best show of the night. And honestly, it was really the most underwhelming of all the matches on the show. And it's not even a slight on the match itself. It's just that
the other ones were just
that men's Money in the Bank match was just unbelievable.
Not only men's Money in the Bank, I loved the ending to the women's Money in the Bank.
I did too. It was fantastic. It was I was laughing. I like belly laughing over how creative that was for Io Sky to win the women's Money in the Bank the way she did, cuffing Becky and Bayley together. And the picture they have with her sitting on the ladder with the briefcase in her hands and Bayley's just kind of standing there and Becky just has this disgusted look on her face. I'm like, that is just wonderful. Whoever took that picture, that was just perfectly timed.
Yeah, and during men's Money in the Bank, that they set it up a few times where, like, the three people everybody thought had the real opportunity of winning that thing. They all had moments where you're like, oh, maybe this is it. Whether it was Logan Paul, whether it was LA Knight, or whether it was the eventual winner, Damian Priest. I loved the story that they had there. I enjoyed the fact that they continued the story with Ricochet and Logan Paul in the botched move, and clearly this is now leading to a SummerSlam match between Logan Paul and Ricochet. I'm looking forward to that match like crazy. I mean, the two of them are going to figure out something even more exceptionally stupid, spectacular to look at for SummerSlam.
Right.
You could put a lot of money on that.
Oh, absolutely. And they had, especially after having the moment they had at the Royal Rumble, oh man, Jay, I could really go on and on about that move or botch, whatever you want to call it, that happened in the Money in the Bank. But those two in the ring together are going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Logan Paul gets it, and Ricochet can work with just about anybody.
All right. Kind of briefly going back to a thing we were talking about with Drew McIntyre and maybe getting a couple of buddies.
And a couple of buddies.
A certain member of 3MB wants one more run in WWE. Now, has his own tag team going right now. But if we were able to get Heath Slater back with the Jinder, I'm certainly on board with another 3MB run. But, this time instead of playing air guitar, maybe it's air sword. I know you don't want to see the sword, but I'll take Angela air sword with a couple of buddies. Jinder with the turban on, like sitting there being a rock star.
Playing the air guitar, yeah.
So
and it's funny you mentioned that because that's one of those things that happened years ago that I hated. I hated 3MB. It was stupid. I used to, when I had to, when I have the WWE 2K14 game, and whenever I feel like I just beat the shit out of people, those three got their asses kicked more than any three human beings in that game. And it's because of the fact that it was such a stupid gimmick, and I hated what they did with Drew McIntyre. And it's like Jinder Mahal, it just doesn't fit in here. He's like a square in a round peg hole. And like Heath Slater, I mean, God bless Heath Slater for trying to get anything to work the way he did. He went from my least favorite member of the original of the Nexus to being one of my favorites, which is incredible to think.
Yeah.
But I mean, him as an option, I think I'd rather go with the Creed brothers. I know you could recycle, and it's like how long until because I know recently he was like, oh, I'm having too much fun in Impact. Why would I want to go back to WWE?
Right.
It's kind of like the same thing with Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona, whatever you want to call him. And it's like, dude, are you going to come back, or are you just going to sit here and play footsies with WWE all the time?
Speaking of Matt Cardona, though, I am enjoying that there is an entity known as Blue Kane. Blue Kane, who apparently, instead of having hellfire and brimstone, comes from the frozen tundra of somewhere and brings snow with him, a la Glacier. Cardona said, somebody make this happen. I want to go against Blue Kane. I think he feels that Blue Kane is almost like Bizarro as far as like Superman goes. And maybe this time, instead of getting thrown off of, the thing with Titantron into the concrete, maybe he could get one over this time. And even though he's gotten himself over, Vince is not in control here. So Cardona might actually get over on this thing and not be screwed over for getting himself over. I want to see versus Matt Cardona. Cardona gets his revenge.
I'm going to take it a step further. I want to see Blue Kane versus Red Kane. And I don't care that the Red Kane is now the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, and he's like almost 60. I need Blue Kane versus Red Kane, or else it doesn't matter.
All right. Tim says, boom. Yeah. Let me talk. All right. And then Mike Rainey says, I didn't really have any complaints with Money in the Bank. I would have been happy with either Priest or LA Knight winning, and definitely slightly surprised about the women's tag title match. So let's get into the women's tag title match.
Oh, Jay, of all the years that we've been wrestling fans, especially over the last like 15, 20 years, what has been our biggest gripe about WWE?
Their booking is so generic that you could see things from a mile away. I got a big fucking goose egg on this pay-per-view, and I have never been happier about that.
Really?
Right. But I am happy that I got nothing right, because this just goes to show you, because what did we talk about last week? There were many things that we were like on, you know what? It doesn't feel super clear cut. And even when it really felt clear cut, you know what? They did a damn good job of not being cookie cutter and did not do exactly what we expected. But again, the show was so damn good and effective in drawing storylines forward. I think everybody assumes, I being one of them, that every time that we have a performer, they generally sign a contract that gets them through WrestleMania, because they know they get an extra big payday by being on that WrestleMania card.
Right.
Apparently, not true for Ronda Rousey. And that's why we are where we are right now. Shayna Baszler went the extra mile with Ronda Rousey, helping her figure out the ropes, so to speak, in professional wrestling. When she started out doing stuff, Ronda always apparently wanted to, in the end, have a match with Shayna and put her over. And that would be like her swan song. It did not say in this thing that Ronda would be done with wrestling, but she will be done with full-time performing, which I'm sure makes you happier than a pig in shit.
I hate to burst your proverbial bubble there, sir. I just look back at last week's predictions. Not that it makes it any better, but you did get one right.
Oh, great.
You got. I mean, obviously, it was the most obvious one too. It was Gunther.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But
I did get that one.
But honestly, Jay, I didn't do much better. I mean, I got EO and I got Jay Uso. I mean, we both said Dominic Mysterio. I really thought that was my lock. I'm telling you, I'm going to stop putting these locks down because I think I've missed on my last 9 locks of the pay-per-view. It's that bad. It's almost like going to the track with me. And it's like, hey, what do you like? It's like that scene in Let It Ride. Who do you like in the second? The 6-horse looks pretty good. Ugh, you got a brother? In Cleveland. But, I mean, it's just crazy. Because when it happened, because she tagged in Ronda, and Ronda was going to work on Liv, and then, you see Shayna just, you see somebody come up and just start attacking Ronda, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? You look and you're like, wait, what is Ronda, what is Shayna Baszler doing? And she just absolutely manhandled her. She destroyed her, and then she took off. Any other time.
It's to set her up to be a heel, and then she came out and was a babyface, and people were cheering the fact that she beat the crap out of Ronda.
It's just like when they tried to do the same thing with Becky Lynch when she fought Charlotte at SummerSlam a few years back, and that backfired in their face. But and honestly, Jay, in any situation where Ronda Rousey gets her comeuppance, I would be sitting there I was stunned. I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. I was shocked. And I even had to go back and say, did I just see what I saw? Because I couldn't believe it. It was incredible. I was like, I don't even know what to say. I really don't. Because it was that good.
Yeah.
It made no sense at the time because they just put the tag team titles on them. They just unified the tag team titles. And then they dropped them again. I wouldn't be surprised if Raquel
for the title.
And
I know part to do with the shoulder injury that Liv was dealing with, but even so, it's like, hey, if you wanted to keep the titles on them, when's the last time Roman defended his title?
WrestleMania.
Right. So they could have waited the 6 weeks for Liv to heal up.
But Jay, it was the same thing we said years ago on this podcast when they made Naomi vacate the women's championship for SmackDown right before WrestleMania because she was dealing with an injury when Brock Lesnar takes the title and leaves for about a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, where is the, there's no middle ground. It's like you can't just do one and not the other. And honestly, it was great. Just the fact that we didn't see it was just, I'm still stunned 6 days later. And
talking about stunning, and I'm not talking about Steve Austin, I'm talking about the return of Cena, R-Truth's childhood hero. This, to me, was an even more shocking return than when he returned at the Royal Rumble in 2008 at Madison Square Garden. I kind of, the WWE likes to say people are going to be out for 10 months, and when they show up back in 6 months, oh my God, they're superhuman. And right. I had a little bit of an inkling, maybe Cena will show up. This one completely caught me off guard, and him just, talking about being in front of the fans, and then kind of, hey, maybe we should do WrestleMania in London. And there are a couple of things truly going on here. One of which is this is their way of going like this, putting the thumb in the eye of AEW and saying, oh, okay, you're at Wembley Stadium and you're selling a lot of tickets. Great. Oh, by the way, 75,000 sold. Good for
Yep,
you, AEW.
that is incredible.
But WWE is like, okay, you want to have a big event in London and do well at Wembley Stadium. Great, we'll sell it out twice. Do
Oh, they're definitely going to do it.
So, I guess some of the hesitancy and like, so when they did Clash at the Castle, they specifically did it in Wales, not in London, right?
Correct.
And they had a whole crap ton of people there. A lot of the destinations that they do for WrestleMania, they want to bring in extra tourism dollars. London does just fine without WrestleMania being there. Right?
Yep.
So they kind of are like,
yeah,
whatever. And the other thing with it is WWE wants places too big for WrestleMania. In London is probably like, we don't need it. And John Cena doing what he did, WWE sending him out there to do what he did, was to kind of rattle the cage and get up expectations and hype up the possibility of having a WrestleMania in London. Clearly, we're not doing it for WrestleMania 40. It sounds like we're not doing it in a couple of years because it sounds like Tennessee is going to be hosting WrestleMania. I think it was WrestleMania 43.
I think so too.
WrestleMania 41, 42.
Wide open.
We have not been told of this, but could Cena doing this be something that will help push that ball forward, because WrestleMania is planned years in advance? What did you think about Cena coming out, and what are your thoughts on WrestleMania in London?
The first thing I'll talk about is John Cena. I'm going to disagree with you. I was stunned when he came out at the Rumble the year he did, 2006, 2008, whatever year it was. Yeah. And when he had the torn pec or the shoulder or whatever the issue was.
It was the neck. He had the surgery that went through like his throat to, anyway.
Yeah. And I was stunned because I wasn't expecting him to show up. I just wasn't expecting it. I've heard rumors that the couple weeks heading into the Money in the Bank that he was already in the United Kingdom doing some kind of promotion for one of his movies or TV shows or something like that.
10, which is like out in the theaters now.
And so it didn't really surprise me as much. I was very happy to see him. When they did it, I wasn't expecting it, so I still popped because I'm always happy. I'm at the point now I'm just happy to see John Cena. I didn't feel that way at WrestleMania 39, but every other time I felt good about seeing John Cena return. But and the thought of them doing it in the United Kingdom, it's about time. We've talked about it on this podcast many times that they should do something in the United Kingdom for WrestleMania. Some of the best crowds they've had were international crowds. I mean, we always talk about WrestleMania 18 and how awesome that crowd was in Toronto. Toronto or Canadian fans are just as psycho for professional wrestling like they are in United Kingdom. Yeah. And one of the driving forces of fans coming to the United States for WrestleMania is that you do bring in the international fans. You get at least a good 10 to 20,000 people coming from Europe to watch WrestleMania, come from Asia. So I think this is a great move. And you mentioning the fact that it has something to do with them doing All In London. Oh, yeah, it has absolutely everything to do with that. It's like, oh, okay, you're going to bring a show back from the dead. Well, we'll just give them our greatest show and sell out both nights.
Right.
And I know, and this is something I learned from, and I'm going to get my moment with Cornette out of the way. Cornette actually did mention this. And he said that the main reason for the longest time that they didn't want to do a WrestleMania in London is because they didn't want to start WrestleMania at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they didn't think that people were going to spend that kind of money, because this is back when pay-per-views used to cost $29.99, $39.99, $49.99. But now because of the network or with Peacock, it's a lot more feasible because you can watch it anytime you want. You don't have to worry about ordering it.
And this is a thing we've actually talked about, I think, basically since the birth of the podcast, which was, hey, now that we have the network and people aren't paying that much to get these premium live events, we're now able to, like, WWE should not feel the pressure of having to do the show specifically for the U.S. audience, even though the U.S. audience, by and large, is their biggest thing. So London deserves a show. And Triple H, in his post-show press conference, talked about how many international events they've done in the past, I think, 12 months, and just spoke of, comparatively speaking, we've been doing more of these, and, you know, and he kind of jokingly said, yeah, I'll probably get in trouble no matter how I respond to this. You know, we would love to, at some point, figure out a way to do WrestleMania in London, but logistically, it's really difficult, you know, because you've got to hire people. You're not going to necessarily bring your production crew, except for Bucky Beaver, out to London. You know, you might take your, like, top line director and a couple other people, but, like, the camera people are most likely going to be people that are in England. But, you know, the fact that they do more and more of these shows, you know, maybe those people get trained up. But Triple H talked about that. He also did dip in during his press conference about NXT Europe. It was one of the things that he said he was hoping to get up and running in 2023, but he did say that the merger has kind of put a pause on that for the time being. He said that they're still kind of in process of making it happen, and he said he just doesn't know at this point when it will happen. And there was a little bit of a thing that I read today that said it's on hold indefinitely at this point. And again, I don't know, like, if indefinitely means like going, oh yeah, once the Endeavor merger happens, and then you can press the forward button. But I mean, clearly that has put several things on pause for the time being. And I'm kind of bummed that NXT Europe has been put on pause. I was looking forward to them having all these different territories, so to speak, throughout the world, and having like a Pat O'Connor-esque Memorial Cup of the different NXT brands, having like this grand champion who, you know, you get the champion from NXT Europe going against the NXT champion of the Middle East, NXT champion of South America going against the NXT champion of Japan, going against the Samoan champion, Roman Reigns, going against, you know, the United States champion, Austin Theory, going against the Intercontinental champion, and on and on and on and on. But you can sit there and have this grand championship as long as you build up all these brands. But clearly, this is going to make that idea wait another whole bunch of years. I still think it's going to happen, but it sucks that we have to put the pause on this for now.
And I agree that would be great to have like an ultimate, like you're the ultimate NXT champion. Of course, they can have a situation where, you know, whoever, you don't want to include like the regular NXT on it, like whoever, you could have like maybe a tournament of like NXT Europe, NXT Asia, NXT, South America, NXT, wherever, and then have them go up against the regular NXT champion if they don't want to do the Ultimate NXT champion. Although if they did an Ultimate NXT champion, that's another championship belt that Roman Reigns can have.
It is, and I would like to see NXT Antarctica where we have Glacier going against Blue Cane and versus the Yeti in the triple threat match to represent the and you know what? Maybe even
Polar bear.
Polar bear and the ice creature from the Hoth world in Empire Strikes Back. I think that would be a great five-way match. Five creatures enter, one leaves from the frozen tundra of Antarctica. Whoever stands at the top of the tallest mountain at the end will win. And it would probably be the Yeti because the Yeti is from the mountains.
The Yeti.
And what the Yeti and the Giant did to Hulk Hogan back in the day, maybe it was a shot.
I really need to see this Blue Cane now. I've seen pictures. I didn't think it was real. The fact that this thing, and I remember seeing on Twitter earlier this week, and I think Twitter's still a thing. I don't know.
Even started happening this week. Twitter is still a thing.
Oh man, why does Kazarni have to be in the match?
Hey, I'm glad that you can see these now.
I am too, because I turned it and I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, what is it? Because now it's a little bit smaller, so now I have to really zoom in to see myself, which is it's fine. But I get to see the comments again, which I am so happy. This is the new update, I'm guessing, from Facebook, because it wasn't like this the last few times. This is fantastic, and I really need to see this Blue Cane.
Yeah. Mike Rainey is asking about the Endeavor merger. When is it supposed to happen? So, Mike Rainey, the thing is, whenever you're merging, specifically when you got a couple of big companies, you can finalize a deal, but it has to go through an awful lot of approval before it's given the thumbs up from the United States government. In my field in television, I've been a part of companies where mergers were announced or buyouts were announced, but the FCC ended up not giving the thumbs up. They did like Commodus and Gladiator, gave the thumbs down, but you sit there and you move forward and you just do what you do. But because these are a couple of separate entities, and I don't think it's going to create any sort of monopoly within the business realm, I can see it going through. My guess at this point is it's going to be sometime in the fall, but all of it is really like a crapshoot. You can't set a definitive date. You could set kind of if it happens, it would probably be around this time.
Right.
So I'm going to say it's going to be sometime in the fall. If I were to guess, I'm going to say sometime September or October.
Jay, I just thought of somebody we're missing for the match to represent NXT Antarctica.
Okay.
So, if I'm not mistaken, Santa Claus is from the North Pole, which is in the northern part of the globe.
Yeah. Yes.
So the South Pole technically is in Antarctica.
Yes.
And if memory serves me correctly, once upon a time there was a wrestler named Santa Claus, Balls Mahoney, who was from the South Pole. There you go. There's your 6 wrestlers.
Yeah, 6-pack challenge there. Maybe they could have a gauntlet match that could run in conjunction with the Kofi gauntlet match and the Seth Franklin Rollins.
Yeah. Which is funny because I think they did one of those on Monday. It wasn't really like a gauntlet match where all the tag teams were in the back. It was like a tag team, almost like Turmoil, where they had 2 teams in there. And then, somebody got eliminated. The new team came in to determine the number 1 contenders for the women's tag team titles, which consisted of teams of Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, and then a whole bunch of other tag teams, and Katana Chance and Kaden Carter.
Tim, I am 100% on board with the Santa from Santa's Sleigh, played by Bill Goldberg, a Christmas classic. I mean, you know me, almost every year around Christmas, I bring up that people should watch Santa's Sleigh. It's one of the worst movies out there, but it's 100% worth it to watch. Not only the opening scene where Goldberg, like, they have a bunch of what I would call B-level to high B-level performers in this first scene, but spoiler alert, I mean, the movie's been out for 20 years, so, like, it's on you if you haven't seen it yet. Goldberg kills them all. Kills them all.
Yes, because nothing.
100% even more worth it for later in the movie where there's an old lady driving in a car and Goldberg driving in the sleigh is upset that the old lady in the car is driving too slow and says, "Move over, bitch," and proceeds to run her off the road and kill her. Thomas Goldberg in Santa's Sleigh 100% should be in the Antarctica NXT. So maybe that could be part of his retirement tour.
Yeah, and the refs. Isn't that the movie with what's his face? Oh, why am I blanking on him right now?
I love that freaking movie. Dennis Leary, Kevin Spacey. There's a dude in the movie who's like, "You want a piece of me? You can't mess with me. I'm Santa Claus." And he runs after Dennis Leary and gets his ass knocked out. I love that movie.
That movie is so grossly underrated. So grossly underrated.
You know who does not greatly appreciate that movie is my mother.
Mama.
She does not like that movie at all. And
I'm surprised.
My mother and I will put that movie on just to watch her reaction.
Oh, I'm even more surprised by that, Cousin Jay. How dare you guys do that to Jacinta? I don't understand why you would do such a thing.
It's called The Shocker.
Santa's Sleigh versus No Holds Barred. Which one is worse?
What's that smell?
Duty.
Cookie. I saw No Holds Barred in the theaters. Thank you. It was great. That is exactly what my mom said several times during the viewing of The Ref.
I can hear Jacinta saying it too.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh man. So let's to bring it back to Money in the Bank. I want to talk about the men's Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Because I thought because number one, I thought it was interesting that they led off with the men's Money in the Bank. When that happened, I almost called every casino I possibly could to put every dime I had on Damian Priest to win the match. Because I said it wouldn't make sense. Because, I mean, if LA Knight comes out and cashes in on Seth Rollins it's going to be a loud reaction for LA Knight, and it's going to be bad for Seth. So if they were going to do it, obviously Priest was going to win, and I wasn't really surprised. I was disappointed, even though I'm very happy. And this is nothing against Damian Priest. I've said for weeks, if it's not LA Knight, I'd like to see Damian Priest win this thing. He has busted his ass. In fact, Nicole and I were even talking about it before the podcast, like what he has done and everything, and now where he is. I am very happy for him. I really am. And to think that Punishment Martinez is going to be potentially a world champion in WWE is just a surreal moment as a fan of professional wrestling.
It all started for him with the first Bad Bunny match at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And I think he said in an interview, somebody told him, if you can't make this work, you're done. He made it work.
Yes, he did.
And when they did what they did with the Spooky Pals a year ago, it was like, this is stupid.
Yep.
it took a little while before I'm like going, all right, I'm okay with what they've done with the Spooky Pals now. Similar to the Bar, where I was like, I thought it was really stupid how they put the team together, but once they made them a team and how incredibly well they work together, you know,
Yeah.
You could forgive a lot of sins by having awesome matches and turning it into taking chicken shit and turning it into chicken salad.
I hate to say it, and I know we were talking about it when it happened a year ago, but Edge needed to get out of the Judgment Day, even though he started the Judgment Day.
And it didn't make any sense at the time because they were undefeated and they had a WWE Hall of Famer in their midst. And they took a dude close to 40 with not as much cachet and injected him into the group. And it's like, whatever reasoning you come up with to try to eject Edge doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
It still doesn't make any sense, but they turned the tide by just keeping on working. It's like going, fucking Dominic Mysterio. You want to talk about doing a 180 on a dude?
Oh, God, yes.
I mean, I remember after his initial match with Rollins at SummerSlam, we're like, you know what? Kid's pretty good. And then, his shortcomings were showcased when he was in the ring with other people. But now his character work has been so strong. I equate it to being Vicky Guerrero-esque. Not necessarily good, but you get a reaction.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And the fact that they have now officially given him the name Dirty Dom. I mean, there was so much good this week. In a normal week, changing his name to Dirty Dom might get my good. It might get my good because it's like, what? Dirty Dom.
And I'll tell you, too, Jay, I agree. There was so much good this week. I even have 2 selections for my good this week because I couldn't decide between 2 topics, and I was like, I don't care. I'm like, it's never a point where there's so much good that we could give it to that I can only just pick one. And I'm sorry, there was just 2 things that I really loved this week.
Weeks I had a hard time coming up with a bad and brainless. I had to go searching. I found them. I certainly did.
My bad was pretty easy. I actually wrote my bad before I wrote my 2 goods.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like Mike Rainey had mentioned the botch with Ricochet and Logan Paul. That was another thing I wanted to talk about. In a situation like that, where a lot of things could go wrong and a lot of people could get hurt, because like they've said before and they say it again, they're not performing ballet out there.
Yeah.
But I never understood. I'm like, all right, so clearly they're stacking these tables. Somebody's going through these 2 tables right here. And when they set up the second ladder and LA Knight was on that outside ladder and it was looking like it was going to be the one that was going to go through the table, I said, I swear, if they Bubba Ray Dudley WrestleMania 17 him here right now, I'm going to flip out and leave. And I live here. But obviously he was the one that ended up pushing the ladder. It wasn't in the right spot. They completely blew the freaking ropes. They tried to untangle themselves. I really, really, really was hoping that Ricochet, because I'm like, they're not going to keep trying to do this, right? I'm like, they're not going to fucking do this, right? I'm like, no. And then he went, and they both. I applaud Ricochet for doing everything he could to make sure that Logan Paul didn't end up paralyzed or dead.
Yeah.
Because he did everything he could to protect his head and neck. Because you see it, like I watched it a few times because I I rewatched a lot of stuff from this Money in the Bank, and it's not for like, okay, so maybe it is kind of like for the primetime Brian Lee, Z-Man type of botch that I went back and watched, but for that one it was. And I applaud him for protecting his opponent the way he was supposed to, but I also just don't understand why even try to do it. You botched it, you fucked it up. Live to fight another day. Don't try to force it when you're not supposed to, because that could have ended so much worse than it did. And it just bothers me because I expect better from Ricochet. And I know that this is a dude who's been around for a few years now. I remember when he first signed, I was Jeff with Johnny Gargano over Ricochet when he first got to WWE. Yeah, exactly. And it's just, I was like, why? That was so unnecessary to try to keep going for it. You could have severely got hurt. You could have killed each other. That's just one of those things. It was like when it was Jeff Hardy in the WrestleMania 17 where he was trying to walk across the ladders and he fucking botched it. He's falling. I'm like, just let it go, man.
Just a quick aside, Jeff Harvey, when he had, I think his last match, I think which was like June 21st, so a couple weeks ago before the Canadian tour started for AEW, has actually dislocated his jaw. He dislocated his jaw during that match that he had. Ironically enough, I was they had a marathon of Dark Side of the Ring, and I happened to be watching when it was the one on the Dynamite Kid. And one, Mick Foley talked about how he took a clothesline from the Dynamite Kid that dislocated his jaw and he could not eat solid food for 3 weeks. Jeff Hardy, I hope you're able to eat solid food. But, I mean, dislocated jaw, that sounds like it sucks an awful lot.
And it's funny you mentioned Jeff Hardy and the Hardys and everything, because in AEW they're doing that tag team eliminator wild draw thing where they're picking random tag teams. That's why we have Adam Cole and MJF as a made up tag team. Adam,
I love Battle
Cole, baby, and we got Daddy Magic and in the Butcher, I think it was, and
yeah,
it was like Magic Meat, I think they were calling themselves. So now I don't want him and the other guy, Angelo Parker, being a tag team. I need Daddy Magic to be in a tag team with the Butcher so that we can actually have Magic Meat as a tag team forever.
Yes.
I'd watch AEW continuously if they had a team called Magic Meat. But they were doing the Eliminator and they were doing another drawing for the tag teams. And really quickly, RJ City has been tremendous in his role backstage with AEW. I have enjoyed every time he's been on the camera, and I've actually started watching some of his videos. Oh, hey, or ew, whatever the hell it was called. He's actually rather entertaining, and I know El Jefe speaks very highly of RJ City.
Yeah.
And so they're doing the Eliminator, and Matt Hardy's there, and they're like, oh, look, Matt Hardy, you were drawn. And he goes, that's great. And they're like, here's your tag team partner. And he goes, it's Jeff. And Matt Hardy goes, great, I actually have my brother as my tag team partner. He goes, actually, it's Jeff Jarrett. I was like, oh, boy, of course. Because it already reeks like frickin' TNA Dixie Carter as it is. Why don't we just make it even more of a frickin' Dixie Carter thing by having Matt Hardy team up with Jeff Jarrett? Was Kevin Nash not available? Did WWE not want to let Booker T out of his contract in NXT so he could team up with Jeff Jarrett? What about the Genetic Freak? Where was he? Is he too busy hopping up and down because Hulk Hogan just pinned Kevin Nash after a finger poke of doom?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm still trying to understand it, because how did Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, who have actually been a tag team, end up as a tag team in this thing?
Hey, it's completely by chance, just like Abdullah the Butcher ending up with Cactus Jack in one of the the battle balls, and at the time, he and Cactus were
Yep.
kind of like, there was some friction there, but Cactus was actually happy. He was like, "Where's my partner? There's my partner." When Abdullah comes out, but they ended up, I think, beating the crap out of each other. It was fantastic.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Well, you know what? I might need to go on the cock after I get off the podcast and watch Battle Bowl, where Mick Foley and Abdullah the Butcher beat the holy hell out of each other.
Yeah?
Yeah!
That was such good shit.
Yeah!
But, anything? And then what about the women's Money in the Bank?
I mean, again, I come back to how they ended that. Not only did they end it like in a way that was like satisfying, they did a lot of symbolism and created many, that they had metaphors, symbolism, and everything going into the end of that thing. And I think specifically what Io Sky ended up doing in the title match that she had not that long ago. Who the hell?
Was it Charlotte?
What was it against?
Oh, it was Bianca.
Whoever she had the title match with was awesome. Can't. My brain short-circuiting on who the opponent was, but like what they've showcased of Io Sky on the main roster is not the one that we saw in NXT, and we know the one in NXT could go like no tomorrow. She held up that women's division for over a year. She could have held it up even longer. And I hope now the casual fans who tune in for Raw and or SmackDown understand now what a treasure she is as a performer. She isn't called the Empress of the Sky for no reason. And she always puts on top-notch matches when she's allowed and given the time. I love the fact that she handcuffed Bayley and then climbed over her to get the Money in the Bank. And when they did the press conference after Money in the Bank, and they brought Bayley out as part of it, it was what you call it? Damian Priest, Io Sky, and Bayley came out, and they asked specifically to like Io and Bayley, "Hey, does this create a rift between the two of you?" And it's like, "No, we're a tandem. Like, we won. It's not I won. We won." Now, you could also feel like the tension that they had going between them, but it's the proverbial. I mean, think back to The Rock with the Nation of Domination. It was Farouk's faction, and The Rock
Overshadowed him
and overtook him. This one quite literally had the metaphor and the proverbial climbing over the top of the person who is, perceived as the leader of the faction. I loved all the symbolism for this, and I think Io Sky getting a shot at the title is not the worst thing in the world. She will be awesome.
And honestly, they are the two best women's competitors down in NXT. They're the most dominant. I maybe them two and Shayna Baszler. But if we're gonna get Asuka versus Io Sky, the build up for that is gonna be incredible because they're both just gonna scream at each other in Japanese, and then they're gonna have arguably one of the greatest women's matches of all time. Io Sky deserved to win that match. She deserves an opportunity. Triple H is gonna do right by her.
I know I went way out of left field with my pick for that match, and I just wanted to pick something different than what we normally get. But they continued the storyline with Trish and Becky and all that jazz. But
I honestly,
Dark specifically just because I was like, you know what? Let's get crazy for a moment. Let's get crazy.
it's what Prince would do.
Yeah. But super respect for Io Sky winning this match. It certainly makes some sense, and just the way they did it was fantastic.
Agreed. It was actually a really good women's Money in the Bank match too.
Mike Rainey saying I could see Sky leaving Damage Control. I mean, at this point, Damage Control is a duo. Dakota is going to be out for a while. But
yeah,
I want to see them milk this for a while. Like Bayley being okay with it and being okay with it. You know when she's not going to be okay with it?
when Io Sky becomes
in and wins.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, you've got Io's first feud.
And honest to goodness, if you really wanted to get some extra nuclear heat on Bayley, if Bayley cost her the cash in,
Ooh,
that would be good shit. Such good shit, pal.
But again, so much good that went on with the women's Money in the Bank match. Again, the whole show was
excellent.
Yeah,
I agree.
And the crowd was. I'm not going to say it was quite Puerto Rico level, but it was close.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Make performers go that next step.
Yeah.
Literally and proverbially.
Literally. And honestly, the only other thing I really wanted to really touch base on was the main event. And that was, I mean, they had 4 or 5 different matches named for the main event, but I mean, we finally got it, and it was the match that should have been the main event, and that was the Bloodline Civil War between Roman,
Captain America, and Iron Man.
I didn't see Captain America or Iron Man in that match, but I did see the Wise Man.
Yeah.
And the Big Dog.
Benny.
I thought it was a really good match. They told a very, very good story. I thoroughly enjoyed that. They even gave the old referee bump in there, and they hit the splash, and there was nobody there to count it out. I'll be honest, Jay, when Solo and Roman both hit the spike and the spear on the Usos, and he stacked them up, and he was going to pin them both, I said, this is it. I'm like, it's going to happen right here. But when they kicked out, man, I was like, oh, they're winning this match now. There's no way they're going to lose. And I thought it was interesting because before the pay-per-view, I did actually watch the pre-show, and Caleb Braxton did talk to Paul Heyman. And Paul came out.
Was Booker T on it, and how high was he?
I didn't get a chance to watch all of it. I was doing other things in the process of it being on. But as soon as I saw Paul on there, I was immediately glued. He had tears in his eyes. He goes, I have never seen him like this. He's not going to take it easy on them. They have turned on their tribal chief. And he was going in there, and he goes, I've known this family for 40 years. Roman plans on eliminating the Usos from WWE permanently. And I didn't think of it until after the match when he cut this promo, and I was like, wow. I'm like, Paul really sold that. There was one omission from there that I should have, when like the light bulb went off, they're going to win. the Usos, is when he was cutting the promo, and at the end of it, or at any point during the promo, he did not mention this is not a prediction, it is a spoiler. When he did not say that, I should have known that was going to be the case where the Usos were going to win.
Really, really good match. Not exactly the same as the WrestleMania match with the Usos and Zayn and Owens. A little bit too super kick happy for my liking, but it didn't have Sammy and or KO no selling certain moves and doing stuff. I wish there were a few less super kicks. All that being said, the story they told, and like you said, when they kicked out of the Samoan Spike spear combination, like yeah, they're not losing this match. And clearly they have set up for Jey Uso being the first person to pin Roman Reigns in 3 years to have a match with him at WrestleMania with Solo in the corner of Roman, and we're going to have Jimmy in the corner of Jey. And sweet, you moved the storyline forward, and I thought it really was fantastic storytelling, carrying this story that's been going on for a couple years forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if we're gonna find out what's to expect because they're having a tribal court. Let's see, if it's 7:30 now, my guess is in about 2 hours, because they're gonna have to start doing it around 9:30, so that when they start talking at 9:47, it'll be enough time for Roman to get in the ring.
Yes.
Roman will get to the ring, and there will be 2 commercial breaks on his way to the ring.
Yes. And with this, like, are they finally going to bring Alpha and Sika, Rikishi? Are they going to bring Samu and other people that they were going to bring to that celebration all those months ago that didn't end up happening?
Chris Brown said that Alpha and Sika will be there tonight.
There we go.
And Tim, you mentioned blame the Young Bucks for the super kick madness. I'm curious if they would actually open up bets for over-unders on the amount of super kicks if we ever, and I really hope we never do, but if we ever did get the Young Bucks versus the Usos, because whatever the over is, I'm going to hammer the shit out of it.
Yeah?
It could be 99.5, and I bet there's definitely going to be 100 super kicks in this match. They should do some Vince Russo as booking and put the super kick on a pole.
I've got a great idea. Have a match where the super kick is banned.
Well,
Just like where Edge versus Dolph Ziggler all those years ago, where the spear was banned, but the referee ended up getting knocked out and did not see the spear that Edge ended up hitting Dolph with, and that's how Dolph ended up with one of the shittiest title defenses in wrestling history.
Now, Jay, it wasn't nearly as bad as when Mr. Bob Backlund held the title from the time he won it from Bret the Hitman Hart to the time he dropped it to the Truck.
Oh wait, was that a little too tugboat, or was that?
That was a little tugboatish, yes. Or whatever the hell it is. I can't really do it. My sinuses have been kicking my ass all week. I can't be as brainless as the brainless one typically. I mean, no, I'm always brainless as the brainless one's ever going to be, but
40 Omega versus MJF and the Young Bucks versus the Usos.
I'd shoot myself if Omega's at WrestleMania 40.
All right.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see Omega or the Young Bucks in WWE.
All right.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So one more thing for me for Money in the Bank that I really want to talk about. There was a lot of relevant stuff they talked about in the post-show press conference, one of which was they talked with Cody Rhodes. They asked him point blank, is it finishing the story if you go against Seth Rollins and beat him for the World Heavyweight title? He said no. He said, it's a big deal if I win that, but the title I need to win is the one that Roman is wearing. Kind of sort of planting the seeds for WrestleMania 40 in my estimation.
Yes, because nothing says I want to see, something in wrestling like a dude holding a title for 9 more months after he's already held it for like 27 years.
He needs to pass out Hulk Hogan.
No, he doesn't need to do anything.
He needs to pass out Hulk Hogan because they don't want that be like, when they refer to the modern era, they basically refer, the modern era started with Hulk Hogan. They want to pass out Hulk Hogan so they don't have the racist as the longest reigning champion in the modern era.
And that's fine if that's what you want to do. Have Roman defend the title. I'm going after people because I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, yes, it's great that he's lasted 1,000 days. He's defended the title like 26 times. Hell, Seth Rollins, and this was my point to somebody on the thing, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with these people. I don't got the time for it.
Ugh.
Seth Rollins, since he won the World Heavyweight Championship, has defended the title more times in 2023 than Roman Reigns has, and Seth Rollins won the title in May.
Yeah.
I mean, how is this impressive? Because the guy doesn't show up, and when he does, he fights tag team matches, doesn't put the title on the line. He should have lost the match to the fat cupcake eater, but the cupcake eater got stuck.
Champions.
I'm just saying, like, he is, yes, it's great that he has this long run. Mike Rainey, why would you do such a thing and put me in such an upsetting mood? I saw that, and people are like, well, they need a fresh start. They're not going to make it in WWE. They're not. I want to see them come across freaking Brock Lesnar just as much as I want to see Brock Lesnar come across Kenny Omega. Because what are they going to do? They're going to go cry? Oh, Triple H, Brock Lesnar said something to us. We don't like it. Ugh. By the way, when they had their show, what was it? I think it was Forbidden Door. And they were showing the pictures of the area where like all the merchandise is, and it was all Forbidden Door stuff. You couldn't buy any shirts from any of this individual wrestlers. It was just merchandise for Forbidden Door. One of the Young Bucks' wives is in charge of merchandising for AEW. I'm sorry. I don't want any of those two. I'd rather have Kenny. Kenny is the lesser of the 3 evils between the 3 of them. I can handle Kenny Omega just because he actually looks like a wrestler and he's kind of an athlete. Hangman Page, I'm kind of on the fence with Hangman Page. But come on, man. Jay, you and I both know the Bucks aren't going to make it, would never make it in WWE.
You talked about merchandising.
Merchandising.
I just need to bring this up. In June, before his T-shirt came out.
Yeah?
Night was number 4. Woo! On the list of merchandising within WWE. Number 1, number 2, Cody Rhodes. Number 3, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What?
Number 4, LA Knight. Number 5, the shirt you have on. NWO.
And it's interesting because I did wear this shirt for a purpose today.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe we've gone this deep into the podcast without even mentioning it. That 20, or did we already mention it?
We did not.
Okay. So 27 years ago, on a fateful night, a so-called pay-per-view called Bash at the Beach took place. And the outsiders, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, were talking about the third member. And they were going up against Sting, Lex Luger, and the Macho Man. And near the end of the match, Hulk Hogan came out and leg dropped the Macho Man twice. And I am now convinced that he dropped it the second time because he got zero reaction from dropping it the first time because I don't think people comprehended what happened. But July 7th of 1996, the greatest heel turn in professional wrestling took place. And it kind of goes back to like what you were saying about how they want to modernize it and have Roman Reigns surpass Hulk Hogan. That's fine. I hate to break it to WWE. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how hard you try, there is no way that you're going to be able to keep Hulk Hogan out of the history of professional wrestling. The single biggest moment in wrestling history, Hulk Hogan was a part of it. The greatest face in wrestling history is Hulk Hogan. The greatest heel turn in the history of professional wrestling is Hulk Hogan. The greatest bassist player in the history of Metallica is Hulk Hogan. By the way, my top 10 list is going to be my top 10 favorite lies told by Hulk Hogan. Spoiler alert. I get what they're trying to do, but Hulk Hogan has... Name me somebody more influential to wrestling than Hulk Hogan. WrestleMania is not successful unless Hulk Hogan's in the main event. Hulk Hogan is very responsible for a lot of our generation's fandom. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again, and I'm going to say it'll probably be the last thing I say before I croak on this planet. I took my vitamins and said my prayers with the best of them.
Yeah?
Yeah? But to go back to that moment, Hulk Hogan turning heel. What was going through your mind 27 years? Because you were watching 27 years ago, right? When Hogan turned?
View live. So, but I remember them talking about the third member, and it's like, yeah, who is it? And you know, when they brought it up on the next televised show on free TV, I'm like, holy crap! I did not see it coming as far as Hogan coming and turning on the Macho Man, turning on WCW. But it was exactly what his career needed at the time. I mean,
absolutely.
They wanted the Sting was going to be the guy.
Yep.
Because nobody would have suspected that. And Hogan was very unsure if it would be a good move for his career to be the ultimate bad guy. And when he saw that, like, the audience was really latching on to what Hall and Nash were selling, hey, brother, maybe I should do this. And again, what I just stated, NWO 27 years later is still a top 5 seller. Scott Hall specifically said in the last couple of years of his life, he was getting 6 figures a year based off the merch sales from WWE.
Yeah.
You know, as much as they were part of what killed WCW, like, you can't deny the impact they had on the business and the industry. So 27 years ago was a big frickin' deal. And when you think about what's happened to the primaries in that match since then, we don't have the Macho Man anymore. We don't have Scott Hall anymore. Lex Luger is in rough shape. And you know, Sting's still going pretty damn well. Hogan barely walk. And you got Kevin Nash, who does his podcast, and life is okay for him. But, I mean, a lot changed after that. A lot of big things. A lot of good things happened. Breaking news, Nash just tore his quad. Also, breaking news, Kenta just got injured.
And yes, Tim, I did drink the Hogan Kool-Aid. 35, Jesus Christ, I feel old. 35 years ago, a 5-year-old brainless one watched wrestling for the first time in his grandmother's basement. And Hulk Hogan was, you got to remember, this is 1988. And, you know, I was 5 years old. What 5-year-old kid's not going to go to the superstar, the hero, the American, the real American,
who rakes the eyes, scratches the back, and does everything a good heel would do.
And honest to goodness, too, I really, even though he was a heel, I loved Mr. Perfect. I loved Mr. Perfect. He was such a great character and a great athlete and just grossly underrated. Another guy who should have won the WWE Championship that didn't. Plus, you know, how awesome was it as a kid when Hulk Hogan is hulking up? I know how, here we are, 35 years later, and I'm like, it's so stupid that he was doing this because it's so fake and phony. But man, when you're a fighter, oh my God, Hogan's gonna come back, he's gonna beat him, oh my God, type of thing.
Hey, even at WrestleMania 18, even the old Hulksters still were hyped up that Hulk Hogan did Hulk up, even though the Hulk up did not result in a victory.
And it's funny too, Tim put in that fuck Hulk Hogan. I was just doing my list. Hulk Hogan has fallen so far down my list over the years. Like he's on the verge, like he's hanging on to my Rushmore barely. I think the lying and honestly that story about how he told the Undertaker he fucked up his neck on that tombstone on the chair just to have the Undertaker find out that he didn't even come within 2 inches of hitting the chair. That really, like, something like that really bothered me. I mean, granted, the Undertaker, did pretty well for himself considering the fact that he was the second greatest gimmick of all time after a monsoon of gorillas.
And a close third, Duke Droese.
Yes, he looked like a... Listen, especially all my Bristolites that are on here watching. You're telling me, I don't know when your all's trash day was, but it used to be Monday when I was in my part of Bristol. If you're telling me that the garbage truck that rolls down the street, that comes to pick up the trash, and the guy comes off the back of the trash truck and throws the bags into the truck, didn't look like Duke Droese. Just saying.
Yeah.
What is the Mount Rushmore of hated wrestlers?
Well, I mean, I know for you, like the Bucks are on there. I mean, I know X-Pac used to be on there. I think he might have found himself kicked off of Mount Trashmore. By the way, it's a real place. It's a real place.
It is. Benoit's got to be up there too.
Being on that list would be a good one.
Benoit has to be. Benoit, Kenny, the Bucks.
That's 4 people right there.
Yeah.
Unless you count the Bucks as one person.
If I count the Bucks as one person, then I'm going to have to. Oh, geez, I'd have to really think about that. Kenny, the Bucks, Chris Benoit.
X-Pac, you got Kevin Owens.
Oh yeah, there you go, Kevin Owens. Fuck that. Kevin Owens has to be on that list. Sean Waltman has avoided and is now in a good spot with the brainless one. I have no ill will towards. I cannot believe I'm saying this. X-Pac.
Okay. All right.
I was gonna say the blow-up doll.
That's not a bad choice either.
Yoshihiko or whatever the frick it's called.
Banks, Benoit, and Omega.
You know what? I'm glad that Tim mentioned this. After the podcast, I'm going to go and I'm going to post on our Facebook page the tweet I sent out that Kevin Owens blocked us on Twitter for. If you see it, it's nothing terrible. I didn't disrespect anybody in his family or his friends or anything like that. I made a funny joke that only thin-skinned people, that's all I'm going to say because I'm not going to upset anybody else, thin-skinned people would take offense to.
The bastard Pack did not take offense to anything that we tweeted at him about the hollowed-out tree or the Keebler elves are making cookies. Never once.
Cheese and crackers, Jay. If you saw some of the stuff that I tweeted about Matt Hardy when Twitter first became a thing, I was doing some horrible. I am not proud of myself, and if I don't win in 2024, it's going to be because of my Twitter posts. Although that account is no longer existing.
Going to be a thing anymore. It's going to be threads now, and the world will
Well, I'm going to post
in from threads. It'll be great.
I'm going to make sure, and I'm going to post that when we're done, so you know. Because, I don't know what was worse, him doing that or the fact that the Big Show blocked us because we said he made a lot of face and heel turns. I mean, there's one thing that we apparently insulted Kevin Owens, but we were stating facts with the Big Show. There were 3 guarantees in life. Death, taxes, and the Big Show was either going to turn face or heel within a week. If you don't like what the Big Show's doing, just wait until next week. He's going to make a turn.
Yeah.
And for some weird reason, Jerry Lawler blocked me, and I have no idea why.
That's all right. You got a new account. He's fine with you now.
That's all right. The first thing I did when I created my new account was block Kevin Owens again.
All right. You know what? This might be the most shocking news of the week, in my view. Jerry McDevitt is retiring. And I think, has officially pulled himself out of the WWE lawsuit with MLW.
He did.
When they say that Vince McMahon made a deal with the devil, I figured that the devil was Jerry McDevitt because he was the one who always got Vince out of shit. It looks like the devil is retiring, and he's probably going to go down to Georgia. But I saw that, I'm like, Vince McMahon can convince that man to come back out of retirement to keep working for him. But apparently even Jerry McDevitt has an age restriction on himself. Vince McMahon's age restriction is death. Jerry McDevitt says, you know what, maybe I need to live my last couple years in peace and not have Vince sending me messages and calling me every 30 seconds because he's got a new lawsuit against him over somebody that he had inappropriate sexual relations with 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago.
Yesterday.
I've had enough of this. I'm good. I've got enough money to last me at least the next, 5,000 years. But now is the time to retire while I've got at least a few years of living on Earth to enjoy. I was shocked.
You would think that with McDavid retiring, that Vince McMahon would follow suit, because now Vince McMahon no longer has his security blanket.
There are many other high-priced, very competent lawyers out there, but none of them are Jerry McDevitt.
No.
None of them.
No. Donald Trump should try to convince him to pull off his retirement a little bit longer and see if he can help him out. Although if Donald Trump gets indicted, that really, really improves my chances of winning in 2024.
I think he's already been indicted, but if he ends up in jail, I think there's a higher chance of him becoming president again.
I would die. Because that's how stupid this country would be, is they would elect somebody who is in prison.
Hey.
Then again, I'm also convinced that my grandparents both voted for Joe Biden in 2020, even though they've both been dead for over 20 years.
They may have.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if Trump gets arrested and ends up in jail, I mean, that's smooth sailing for me, baby. It's going to be Guy Rule, make America brainless again. If you want to be part of my cabinet, you let me know. I have a lot of openings.
We don't have an opening for treasurer.
No, the treasurer has been locked up.
For press secretary, we already know who that is.
And we're going to pull off the 2-for-1 because we're going to have the first lady who's also going to be the Surgeon General.
Yes. So we'll have to figure out, Department of the Interior, Small Business Administration. I don't know if we need Linda McMahon back for that. We can find somebody, I think. Maybe the owner of Hampton Roads Championship Wrestling could be that for us. Anyway.
Oh, please don't. Let's not talk about George Santos. I heard him talk, and he was trying to, just kind of avoid the questions and try to just like tiptoe through them. Yeah, I said I was Jewish, not Jewish. I was Jew-ish. When he said that, I'm telling you, Chris Brown, there was not very many times in my life where I just wanted to reach through the TV and just beat somebody senseless. But when he said that, I just wanted to reach through that TV and just slap the shit out of him. That and every time, what's his face, the dude from Ted Cruz. Every time Ted Cruz is on my TV. Oh, God. I think that Pelosi might be the only person on planet Earth. Okay. Pelosi and Hillary are the only two people on planet Earth I hate more than Ted Cruz.
Okay.
Every time that man opens his mouth, I want to shove my fist down his throat.
Down his suck hole. Yeah. Yeah. I want a top 10 Trump truths. Bullshit Trump keeps saying and now believes is fact. Yeah, hey, you know what? There are plenty of those things that we can talk about.
Yes.
I mean, getting a top 10 would definitely be tough.
I don't think there's enough pot in Hampton Roads anymore.
Yeah. All right.
Jay, you know what? You did mention Kenta.
Yes.
And something happened this week where he defended his strong openweight championship.
He didn't defend it. He lost it, baby.
He lost the... So I have to look at it again. Strong openweight, because I want to say never openweight, because New Japan is the only wrestling company on planet Earth that actually has more championship belts than WWE. And
I know that AEW is trying to pass out every company with more championship belts than anybody else. But yeah, I think New Japan takes the cake.
Yes, I agree, because they have like a never openweight champion, a strong openweight champion, a light, a closed openweight champion, an open closed weight champion, and I don't know.
Fluffed out champion.
Yeah. But he did drop it to, and I'm very happy about this one, Edward Moore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me use his kayfabe name, Eddie Kingston. The Brainless One's wrestling doppelganger.
He's no Mike Booth,
Oh,
but
no.
damn it.
Nobody's Mike Booth.
But damn it, if there's somebody who had the personality of the Brainless One, who hates just about everybody, partner.
I got a problem with you, partner. Yeah, no shit.
I can't wait till he defends that against Claudio Castagnoli and the title for champion versus champion, title for title.
Well, he's going to be doing, I guess, the G1 in Japan, which is why he's going to be out for Blood and Guts in a couple weeks. And apparently, Wheeler Yuta might have gotten hurt on Wednesday with no Daniel Bryanson and, no Wheeler Useless and no Mad King. I don't know. I don't know if Blood and Guts is going to have the same feel to it if Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson aren't in it.
All right.
And
Tim thinks that we need to have a grudge match, top 10 bullshit, Trump versus Hogan.
See, with Trump, that's going to be a tough one. Hogan, it's a lot easier. That's going to be the big thing.
All right. So, yes, good old Eddie Kingston. You know what? Good for him, man.
I'm happy for him. This was a huge moment for him. He said that New Japan was the reason why he got into professional wrestling. He idolized a lot of those guys. I mean, you see how he's acted around some of these guys. It wasn't Shibata or one of the guys he wrestled. He was like, I've always wanted to wrestle him, and like how grateful he was for it. He actually got to team up with him in Japan. Yeah. Eddie's just one of those dudes. It's hard to not like him just because he's probably the closest thing to a regular dude in professional wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm very happy for him. I really am.
All right.
You would even say that I marked out.
All right. So another JR came out this week and spoke of the incident that caused the black eye and caused his issues with announcing on Collision a couple of weeks ago. Of all things, he tripped on the cord to the CPAP machine in his house. Oof. And ended up hitting his head and his eye into something. And he's like, you know what? I didn't feel good. I felt woozy and just wasn't feeling like myself, but had it determined in my brain. I had to make the show. I had to gut it through and figure it out. And he said, hey, when they were going through rehearsals, his voice was not what it normally should be. And he's like, you know what, give me some tea, give me some honey. My voice will be fine by the time we go to air. And not quite. And going through my brain, and this is a little bad, I guess. It made me think of the scene from Naked Gun 2.5, when they had the nuclear device that was going to blow up all the politicians in all of Washington.
Yep.
And Frank and Jane are trying to run away as this bomb's about to go off, and he trips over a cord, falls over, unplugs the nuclear bomb, and everything is okay. Is it bad that I thought of that?
No. Is it bad that I laughed at Tim's JR did his own eye versus eye match? And the really sad part is I'm convinced that JR doing that is better than what WWE with the Rey Mysterio when he lost an eye, which was stupid with this fake eye.
I think I labeled that my brainless the week before it happened. I'm like, there's no way this could be good.
Oh, it wasn't going to be.
Look good and believable. They put themselves into a corner that Vince McMahon put them into, and as the late great Admiral Akbar once said, "It's a trap."
It's a trap.
And to the Jedi, there was no way they were going to get out of that Rey Mysterio eye for an eye match with anything less than a freaking shit sandwich.
Oh, man. It was so bad. I can't even say it was so bad it was good because it was just so bad it was bad. And honestly, kudos to Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black because Aleister Black did get messed with the eye, and he's kind of played that into his character, being Malachi Black in AEW, and the fact that Rey now wears 2 different color contacts to make it seem like he's got a fake eye in his head. They did more with that than what WWE did. It was stupid. It was dumb. It didn't need to happen, but it happened, and now we have to live with the fact that we watched that for the rest of our lives.
Yes. Another thing we have to live with, hey, you know what? Say what you will about Fight Forever. Fight Forever was number 3 in the UK for box titles for gaming systems. So They were behind Final Fantasy and the new Zelda. You know what? Okay, that's not too bad. Let's see if it has any staying power to it. They said the numbers for this versus WWE 2K23. 2K23 did better than Fight Forever, but that's not shocking at all. That's an established brand in 2K23. This is the first ever AEW game. So, again, I hope it's successful and helps bring more money into AEW so we can, have, again, another place for people to work that they can earn a living at. So good for them for, I know it took 57 years, but Fight Forever finally came out, and they only have 547 factions in the game, including QTV. It's sad that John Morrison is not part of that faction at the moment, but Kenny Omega does declare that we will keep on getting updated playable characters that you could download. So maybe you will get Johnny QTV.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Soon.
I'd rather get Johnny QVC over Johnny TV. And it's funny, too, because I've seen a lot of the posts that people are like, the fact that Cody Rhodes is in the new WWE game and AEW Fight Forever, and it's a picture of Rick Rude when he was on Raw and then on Nitro in the same night. And I'm like, of course he is. Because when they started creating the game, he was still in AEW.
Yeah. Tim said, I beat the shit out of the Young Bucks with CM Punk on Fight Forever. Tim, did you record that and put that on YouTube? I think that might get some hits. And then tag the folks from Up, Down, Down.
We need Don't Eat Brown Snow to come back with that video game he had where he was putting me in the ring with Duke Drosy.
Chris Brown wants to have Nyla Rose and Brian Cage versus the Young Bucks. Nyla Rose would squash the Bucks.
I was going to say something, but I'm going to be nice.
If AEW signs Nia Jax and we get Nia Jax and Nyla Rose versus the Bucks, I think that would be something.
At that point, why don't you just ask me who I would root for in that match? Nia Jax and Nyla Rose or the Young Bucks?
You said the Bucks were on your Rushmore. You did not say Nia Jax and Nyla Rose were on the Rushmore.
Well, honestly, I have no issues with Nyla Rose because she's not on TV as much, and I really don't care because when she is on, I don't watch it. But
Okay.
Nia Jax, Nia Jax is not on my Rushmore of hate, but my God, she's in a whole different stratosphere by herself. I would rather. How about this? I would rather have the corpse of Chris Benoit return to WWE before Nia Jax.
Okay.
The Omos match. I haven't seen my hero Omos in a while. I'm an Omos sapien, and I haven't seen my Omos.
Right.
Oh, shit.
I think Kyle now. All right. I guess we should get the last thing or two and then get out of here.
All right.
On Collision this week, big freaking deal. We are getting Samoa Joe, the top-selling Samoa cookie person in all of Florida, going against one Chicago-made Punk. It's the first time in 18 years they have had a singles match against each other. This was something when they announced the brackets for the Owen Hart Cup. I was like going, hey, look, second round, Samoa Joe versus CM Punk makes an awful lot of sense. I think it would make better sense if they held this off for a pay-per-view, but I'm okay with seeing this match.
And you know that we're going to get a lot more of this match going forward because the biggest issue that Collision has is their only star power, like their biggest star is CM Punk, and then they have a whole bunch of other people who aren't like stars at the level of CM Punk. And Joe...
I don't ends up being Ricky Starks or Powerhouse Hobbs or what have you going against CM Punk in the final. I don't have a problem with that.
No, and honestly, Hobbs had a great match with CM Punk when he first debuted for AEW with his first few matches. And I'm a fan of Hobbs. I said that he was going to be a breakout star for AEW, and he held the TNT title for a whopping 12 days. So, but man, Ricky Starks and CM Punk would be a lot of fun to watch. And honestly, you give me CM Punk and Samoa Joe. Those guys can work. Those guys know each other very well. That's going to be a great match, and we know we're going to get matches with them going forward. So yeah. I'm on board with that. Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to discuss, Brainless One?
Well, there is one thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah?
And then I'm going to do my top 10 because I have my top 10 list for this week too.
All right.
Baron Corbin on NXT. It looks like he's going to be down there permanently going forward. He did the promo this week where he was talking about everything he's done in his past and all the gimmicks that he's tried and he's failed and everything like that. The last 2 weeks of Baron Corbin have been fantastic. The fact that this past week he was taking his Olive Garden weighted shirt and throwing it in the fire. He threw his attire that he wore with JBL in the fire. Obviously, they threw a fake King of the Ring crown into the fire, although you and I agree with you with what you said, where if he actually had a crowd as King Corbin, he would have been phenomenal. But I like what they're doing with him, and they're making him into the star that he potentially has. And I'm glad that they're doing this because he deserves better than what he's got. I know that I couldn't stand Baron Corbin at first, but the more I've watched him, the more I appreciate what he's done because he really isn't terrible in the ring. He's gotten a lot better on the mic. He doesn't just get his natural Baron Corbin. He gets heat for being an actual heel.
Right.
And I loved what they did with him. And I'm glad that they're doing what they're doing with him in NXT.
All right. Yeah.
Also, I'm very glad that Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are the new number one contenders for the women's tag team titles. It just goes to for me to continue on with what I've said about Chelsea Green. She's probably been the best of all the re-signings that Triple H had that he brought back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only one that you could kind of compare is Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed, I agree.
Beyond, technically speaking, not a re-signing, but kind of sort of LA Knight. Let me talk to you. Yeah. Well, he was still in the company, but he was fucking Maximum Male Models, Max Dupree, and he was about to either be future endeavored or put permanently on the low end of the card by Vince McMahon. And thankfully, Vince had a wandering eye and a wandering penis and got himself quasi-suspended for 6 months. And it allowed LA Knight an opportunity to get his own ass over before Vince could fuck it up.
Agreed. And not to mention, Io Sky wasn't going to re-sign with WWE until Triple H took over and brought her to the main roster. But honest to goodness, like since Chelsea Green returned to WWE, I'm a huge fan. I appreciated what she did in Impact Wrestling. I've seen a lot of the clips that she's done. She's a very talented woman, and I am so glad that she's in WWE. And she gets to showcase herself. And you know what? In a lesser extent, but honestly, just as deserving as Sonya Deville.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed Sonya Deville as a character. I enjoyed her when she was down, and she was Daria, whatever her real name is, down in NXT before she became Sonya Deville. I was a fan of hers.
Cha-cha-cha. Diarrhea.
Cha-cha-cha. Yeah. So I'm very happy. They ran the table, too. They beat every tag team in that match to earn that spot. I know that I hate hot potato championships. If they put the tag team titles on Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, I'm probably going to attempt to do a backflip without killing myself. But I had to mention that just because I was very happy for the both of them.
Yeah.
And now it's time for the top 10 list. And I don't know if you remember from last week that we've already decided what the top 10 list was going to be.
I don't remember what it is, but I do remember we decided on the top 10 list.
Top 10 wrestling moments to not show casual fans or non-fans that you want to try to bring into the wrestling industry.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun with this one. All right, number 10, Ric Flair's last match. Number 9, and this really doesn't need any more explanation, the finger poke of doom. This one, I don't know how you could actually drag somebody into professional wrestling. The WrestleMania 22 match between the Boogeyman and Booker T and Sharmell. Booker T getting squashed and Sharmell getting a mouthful of worms. That's going to be a no from me, dog.
And I'm going to get you.
Such an interesting character, and the fact that he was a small caveat into what led to James E. Cornette no longer being in charge of OVW. Number 7, the only non-wrestling match on this list. The Old Day segment.
Yeah.
Number 6, this just screams why. Nails versus El Gigante.
It does.
Number 5, and this one, I didn't even think of this one. This was Brainless Wife came up with this one. Vince McMahon versus Pat McAfee from last year's WrestleMania.
Yeah. I'd say that deserves something.
I don't know what it deserves, but it deserves something. Number 4, take your pick. Anytime Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt wrestle at WrestleMania. Because you either get a bunch of bugs in the middle of the ring or you get a black ooze pouring out of Alexa Bliss's head. Either way, Bray Wyatt loses.
Yes.
And so do the fans. Number 3, and you knew at some point on this list that a match from our favoriteest wrestling show in the history of professional wrestling was going to make the list. If you had to take a guess, which match from Class 13 is the number 3 match on this list?
You know, there are several outstanding candidates, but I have to go with the Z-Man versus Primetime Brian Lee. I mean, it has perhaps my favorite botch of all time. I think it is my favorite botch of all time.
For the record, I almost put the Pat O'Connell Memorial Tag Team Tournament African qualifying match.
Finals. I mean that would have been a second. That would have been a second place honorable mention for me.
I didn't want
First runner.
I didn't want to try to spell Colonel DeClerc again. Especially because of the way they lost. But yes, Primetime Brian Lee versus the Z-Man is number 3 on my list. Number 2, The Miz versus Damian Priest at WrestleMania Backlash when the Zombies came out.
Even Batista was embarrassed. And there. I know they were promoting a movie that Batista was in, but like at least since then, with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch and the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, like, you know what? Give me the Pitch Black. I'm one of the few people that was not offended by the Pitch Black match, but I bet most people would take the Pitch Black match over that fucking zombie match.
That's why the zombie match is on my list and not the Pitch Black match. That and the fact that I was actually able to find a way to throw 2 of Bray Wyatt's matches over a lot of other matches.
Mm.
And no, I should have put PN News falling off the scaffold, but I didn't. But we do have the number 1 match. And I thought long and hard about this. I said if there was a match in the history of professional wrestling that if I was to bring in the casual fan to become a wrestling fan, this would be the absolute last match I would pick. I would tell them to somehow, some way, find a way to watch the New York Mets play the New York Jets in some kind of a sporting event. Because even that would be less offensive as the number 1 match in my top 10 wrestling moments to not show casual fans. Because nobody in their right mind could sit there and spend 11 minutes watching Kenny Omega wrestle his fuck doll and be entertained. I almost deleted everything off of my phone, turned it off, smashed it, returned it, and got a one of those things in the cell phone machines that you get your money back. I almost put Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler. I almost did. Especially because I just had that trip down memory lane recently.
I mean, you have that. There are other great possible entries that did not make the list. I mean, I would put Batista versus the Great Khali in the Punjabi prison high up on that list.
That's the next match.
But the thing is, I think people seeing the Punjabi prison itself would be like, that's interesting. What is this? Just like watching the match that they had in WCW with the 3 cages. You'd look at it initially and be like, well, this is interesting, and not realize what a complete shit bomb it would be.
I'm just saying, Jay, there was nothing more offensive, and I never wanted to question my fandom of anything in my life more than when Kenny Omega wrestled the fuck doll.
Yeah.
Seven Canadian destroyers. Somebody tell me how a inanimate object can pull off 7 Canadian destroyers.
Ugh.
Well, I think because of that, that's a hell of a way to transition into our good, our bad, and our brainless for this week.
All right.
Unless you have anything else, Cousin Jay.
No, I'm good.
All righty. So what, and like you've said, there was a lot of good this week. What was the one thing that sticks out to you? I'm watching that, Timmy. That's on my list. The Abdullah the Butcher getting electrocuted in the Chamber of Horrors.
It's so good.
I know. That was the one match I'm actually looking forward to, so I know it's going to be the last match I end up watching. But what is your good of all the good that has happened this week, Cousin Jay?
I went outside of the norm, I guess, a bit. I'm picking Jerry McDevitt retiring as my good for this week. So hopefully now Vince McMahon won't get away with all the shit that he has done in his life. I'm hoping that somebody somewhere didn't sign an NDA and get a crap ton of money from Vince, and they could just let all the cats out of the bag, and Vince will go to prison like he should.
He could be cellmates with Donald Trump. And then at that point, Vince McMahon was like, damn it, I'm going to be VP, pal. Trump's in a cell. Vince McMahon walks up, hey, pal.
You want to do a hair versus hair match?
Pal. As long as it's not, I don't lose the mustache. I like your pick. And
really, Vince McMahon may finally be going to prison.
Especially if Dudley Do-Right is the one that arrests him.
And he's in jail with the Mountie.
You can't do this to me! You can't do this to me! I'm going to go back and watch that again. I love that match. But like I said, I have two good for this week. I'm sorry. Like you said, it was a lot of good this week, and I really couldn't just decide on one. So I'm going to give it – first I'm going to give it to Eddie Kingston. Him winning the Strong Openweight Championship was awesome. I know how much that meant to him. I think that's great. I'm very happy for him. Well-deserving. But, man, that Shayna Baszler freaking not only turning on Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank, but that promo she cut on Monday. After all those years that I shat on her on this podcast saying that she couldn't talk, she makes Baron Corbin look like John Cena. But that promo, if they can turn her into the badass ass kicker that she once was in NXT, look out.
Yeah.
So I had to give them both my good for this week.
Okay.
And what do you got for your bad?
You know, that they had that Raw Underground match on NXT this week, and it was what it was. And at the end, they did a thing where they were trying to showcase Gable Steveson. And in general, like, a lot of the suplex he was doing were good and fine. But then after a while, like, the way they were feeding them to him, like, I'm like, you are now insulting my intelligence. The person is just sitting there, like, and like, not only sitting there, but like the last couple of suplexes, it like the last dude was a big dude, and they're like, he backed into the big dude, he gets wide-eyed and like, oh my god. And then the dude just kind of like walked a couple steps into him to allow himself to have the belly overhand throw suplex. And it wasn't quite as bad as when the Dark Order, had that pull apart brawl, a couple years ago in AEW, but it was pretty bad. Like, I know they were trying to like have him suplex anybody and everybody, but it just didn't look great, specifically at the end.
I thought the suplexes themselves were fine. I agree with you. The approach of the guys getting fed to him.
He did fine. It was just like it looked so fake and forced.
Yeah, I agree. But I thought, because that almost got some recognition for my good for this week. I enjoyed Gable Steveson this week. And, in fact, Eddie Thorpe even won me over a little bit with that performance against Damon Kemp on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I still love NXT. I watch whenever I can.
Tim has bad is back pose showing up on his TV.
Hey, SpongeBob. My name is Pat Back. My bad for this week is the Collision ratings. You're 3 weeks in, and you're pulling Rampage numbers.
Right.
I know the WWE had Money in the Bank on Saturday, and then Collision was that night, and that's a lot of wrestling to try to get in. I was able to do it. I watched Collision on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I'm old.
Yeah.
And I subjected myself to a significant amount of wrestling on Saturday. I've done it before. I'll do it again. I've survived many a 5-hour WrestleMania, so. But
right.
The fact is, you were touting this show. This is the show that you guys got from WB as part of this monster contract extension you got from them. And after 3 weeks, I know that it's still new, but that is a huge, huge drop. Huge. But that's my bad. Obviously, if they could figure out what the hell they're going to do, because I know it's just, again, it's still 3 weeks in. I'm sure they're going to figure it out. Eventually, they'll start getting ratings again, but I have to give them my bad for this week.
Okay.
Just because they hit Rampage numbers.
Right.
Well, what do you got for your brainless?
I'm actually happy to see this, but at the same time, just wondering to myself, what the hell? CM Punk and Samoa Joe have not wrestled each other in a singles match in 18 years. It feels like something that should wait for a one Stone Cold Steve Austin some 19 years ago, 20 years ago, walked out on Vince McMahon because he said, I shouldn't be losing in or going against this guy, Brock Lesnar, in the second round of the King of the Ring tournament without any hype, without anything going into this. I should probably have a pay-per-view match with this dude if you want to draw some money. I want to see CM Punk and Samoa Joe.
Me too.
I mean, I'm happy that it's going to be on TV so I can see it. Business-wise, like this is Eric Bischoff putting Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan on free television.
That's a Georgia Dome, brother.
You can do much better for yourself getting people to buy a pay-per-view to see this match they have not seen in nearly 2 decades. And you're giving it away. Now, like you were saying before, you know, this is probably not the last match they're going to have. But you're going to lose some of the flavor of, like, I haven't seen this match in forever. I'd really like to see it. I need to pay for it. Well, right now I'm going to see it, you know, on my TV on Saturday.
It should have been the finals.
I've already paid. I've paid the Hulu Live people so I could watch it. So Tony Khan, you and your Herb Abrams coke-addled brain giving away for free just because you're trying to pop a rating, dude. I'm glad to see this match, but damn it, it should have been a pay-per-view.
It should have been the finals of the Owen Hart Cup. And it's not and nothing against Hobbs or Starks because they're both very, very viable options to finals of the Owen Hart Cup. Ricky Starks could win it, all we know.
Right.
But Joe and Punk on free television, they did the best they could last week by having Punk do the commentary during the Joe and Roderick Strong match. But that's still not enough build for, like you said, this feels like it should be pay-per-view caliber.
All right, Tim's Brainless is not striking while the iron is hot with LA Knight. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
I was very, very disappointed he didn't win. Not enough to get my Brainless. But somebody else in that match.
Say at the post-show press conference that this is the beginning of the ascent.
We'll see. I've heard a lot of other things. With WWE, it's nice because they can say one thing, and you can hope in one hand and shit in the other one, see which one fills up faster. And it's not going to be the hand that hopes. Yeah. My Brainless does go to somebody in the Money in the Bank. It's not LA Knight or Damian Priest. This must be Bizarro World because Shayna Baszler got my good, and Ricochet and Logan Paul got my Brainless. I know what you guys are trying to do. You're trying to put on a show. You want to do something fun and exciting because it's a Money in the Bank thing, and you like to do these crazy, crazy bumps. I go back to, how everybody says, like, Jeff Hardy is the man who innovated everything that happened with the Young Bucks and all these people doing these swantons off of ladders and all this shit. But I go back to it. And botches happen. And sometimes when something gets fucked up, you just let it go. You have a situation, especially that young Logan Paul is still new and fresh to the industry. And I'm sure there wasn't people in this world who were very disappointed to see him go headfirst into a table. But when the ladder fell, and you didn't bounce off the ropes like you would hope to land onto the tables, you're just giving up. Just fall off the ropes, roll out. If you got to do something in the corner, reestablish yourselves, and then suplex them through a table, fine. Do it. Call an audible. Don't try to force stuff that you shouldn't be doing, especially if it's going to risk injury to you and your opponent, just because you want to have a fun bump. They did the same thing not too long ago in AEW, and Dante Martin shattered his leg.
Yeah.
It was bothersome to me because it was an unnecessary bump that they should have just punted on. So I have to give Ricochet and Logan Paul my Brainless for this week.
All right, Chris Brown with a late challenger for Brainless this week. Saying the segment that they just saw on SmackDown, they flew Alpha and Sika out specifically for this to MSG and did not use them.
Unless this isn't the end of it and we get something at 9:30, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Well, anyway.
Anyway, if you like what you see, whether you are a first-time fan or a continuous follower, make sure you like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube at the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, the letter F, the letter N. You can throw a little, apostrophe between the F and the N, MARKS, the F and Marks. If you like, follow and subscribe to us, we will do the same back. That has always been our
mantra. And make sure you set up notifications so that when we are live, you will be notified that we are live on the Facebooks. So you can join in the conversation about our favorite sport that we all love to hate, professional.
The New York Jets.
Also, make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify. So if you missed the show, you can take the show on the road with you. And we will generally get that up Saturday or Sunday on Spotify, so you could listen to it then. So,
Yeah.
and make sure on the YouTubes, if you haven't subscribed, that you do subscribe to the show. We're up to 40 followers, subscribers on there. We'd love to get up to 50 so we can take the show on the road to YouTube and grow the fan base even more. I think that's it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that they forced the Jets to take part in Hard Knocks because nobody else wanted to do it, or the fact they're going to force fans to watch Hard Knocks with the Jets on it.
Let's go get a goddamn snack. That was the last time they were on Hard Knocks. It was 2009.
Something like that. Sounds about right.
I'd love to see Bill Belichick on Hard Knocks, but I mean,
We're
they
on.
kind of did. They did A Coach's Life with him, but
We're on to Cincinnati. Yeah, but Bill, what do you think about we're on to Cincinnati?
one of the greatest. Bill Belichick is one of the greatest comedians in the world.
I don't know. He's not Andy Reid with his Waffle House menu for his playbook and the fact that he celebrates Super Bowl wins by eating cheeseburgers. Andy Reid is the GOAT of coaching, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. Oh, God. It's now we're on to Theory. But don't worry. Y'all can sit there and watch Theory on SmackDown. Because on this podcast, we actually have real GOATs and real Hall of Famers and guys who exemplify what greatness is.
It's too bad Tommy isn't here to see the double trouble.
And that is because today, July 7th, and Timmy, make sure let your brother know that we did have a double dose of Axle on here. It was like a two-axle. It was a two-axle car. But today, July 7th.
Omos versus Omos with Omos as the referee.
We need Curtis Axel versus Curtis Axel, and a Curtis Axel on a pole match. But today, July 7th of 2023, at an impressive 3,085 days, that man right there, this man right here, and I wish there was other versions of him around here, Curtis Axel, is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble.
Bow, 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 bow.
If Sheamus Bro kicks Theory's head off of his neck, it's gonna be my good. If he wins the U.S. title and ends Theory's reign, it's my good. I'm just spoiler alert. That's my good for next week.
Okay.
But anyway, for episode 320 of everyone's favorite wrestling podcast, the Effort Marks.
I'm Jay. He is.
And I am the brainless one. Make sure you mark out
with your clock out. See you, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in.
Enjoy SmackDown. We'll catch you later.
Yeah.
See you, Brain.
Later, cousin Jay. Yeah.